Take a look at Ward's reputation. He's got to be strong. The hand speed for Norris has always been a strength. It must be again tonight. Ward wants to counterpunch because Norris should be right on top of him, and he took the fight on short notice. Conditioning could be a factor one way or another. He's got to make it a plus tonight.
I'll say he took it on short notice. It was just 2 days ago on Sunday. He was sitting jaunty jolly in his apartment, and suddenly the phone rings. Said, "How'd you like to fight Terry Norris?" He said, "Why not? I'm in training anyway. May as well go for it." Here's Michael Buffer to meet these two.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Showboat Hotel and Casino here in Atlantic City, New Jersey tonight. Top Rank Incorporated and the undisputed, undefeated king of beers, Budweiser, presents professional boxing for your entertainment. These bouts are sanctioned by the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board, Boxing Commissioner Larry Hazard Sr., Deputy Commissioner Lawrence Wallace, and the chairman is Jerry Gormley. The three judges tonight are Phil Newman, Eugene Grant, and Frank J. Cairo. Chief physician to ringside, Dr. Frank B. Doggett. Also in attendance, Dr. Eric Wormser and Dr. Dominic Coletta. The timekeeper for all the bouts is Lindsay Tucker. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get things started with 10 rounds in the junior middleweight division. This bout is refereed by Rudy Battle. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, he's wearing the white trunks and weighs 156 3/4 pounds. He's from right here in Atlantic City, New Jersey. His professional record, 12 victories, 3 by knockout against only 2 defeats. Ladies and gentlemen, Ralf G-Man Ward. And his opponent fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the black trunks with white letters, he weighs an even 155 pounds from San Diego, California. As a professional, 20 victories, 12 by KO against only 2 defeats. He currently holds the NABF title in this division. That title is not on the line tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Terry Norris.
Okay, gentlemen, you've both received your pre-fight instructions. I'm looking forward to a clean contest. Watch your low blows and watch the holding and hitting. Any questions? All right, I want a clean fight. Good luck to you. Let's shake hands.
So there's a look at Ralf Ward. We mentioned he took this fight on Sunday, but he was supposed to fight next week. So it's not like he wasn't in the gym, and it's not like he wasn't preparing for a fight. He just had to rush it a little bit. In the other corner, Terry Norris. And I think it's fair to say Norris using this fight just to stay sharp, just to get himself ready for an eventual title shot. And he pretty much has been assured that at some point in the not too far distant future, he will have that shot.
That's what Kevin Watts thought as far as a taking busy fight when he came in against Irish Steve Collins. And the surprise is always possible. You know, when you look at the conditioning aspect of Ward that we mentioned, he's never been more than 8 rounds, and this fight is going 10, so he'll be in strange territory if it goes to distance, and Norris has been 12.
And Norris, as we said, and at the risk of being redundant, just seems to be getting sharper with every fight. He was very sharp against Buster Drayton. As a matter of fact, we talk about sharpness. He has the second highest connect percentage of any fighter that we've seen this year on ESPN.
You figure in the vicinity of 50% for his shots, which is good in any sport, too, as you can see, not just basketball, but it will make you very successful in boxing, too.
Now, conversely, Ralf Ward has been a fighter who has been very busy. He throws an average, according to our punch profile people, of 82 punches around when we've seen him, and I think it's fair to say, Dave, he's going to have to stay that busy tonight as well.
And it will be a matter of who does get off first in front, because if Norris has the edge in hand speed that we would anticipate, then Ward would have to be sharp in the countering sense, and can he do that?
We're trying an uppercut. We're trying to stay at long range here. Making Norris lunge for him a little bit early on here. Counter left by Norris. Ward is right there, actually, and for both hands.
He shouldn't be trading at this juncture of the fight. He got caught with the left hook. And maybe his guts could be a little bit too much right now.
Let him up, let him up. Step out.
I think there's a tendency, and it's interesting to note when we talk to these fighters the morning of the fight, that when they do get on national television, when they are here on ESPN, they feel sometimes that they have to do a little bit more and be a little bit more of a battler, even if they are a boxer like Ralf Ward normally is.
And you'll see that especially in the early rounds as the anxiety stays up there. Now, Ward turning southpaw for a little bit. It's no purpose at all in it so far. Ward did have a fight back in April, whereas Norris fought in March. And Ward scored a good win over Earl Hargrove.
Yeah, very good win. Hargrove was a guy who came in with something like 26 knockouts and 28 wins. But the first round pretty much belonging to Terry Norris here. Largely a feeling out process, but Norris, I feel, got the better of it. We'll be back. Round 2 scheduled for 10, and Terry Norris comes out winging with the left hand. Ward did try to battle him in the first round, and whether or not that's ill-advised remains to be seen. Take a look at our punch profile from round 1, Dave.
And the percentage belonging totally to Norris, 35% to 14. And notice economy of punching versus the wasted shots of Ward in round 1.
Ward did slip an uppercut in a moment ago, but it didn't really do any damage on Norris.
What Ward is going to be doing is hoping that Norris makes some kind of a mistake, and Norris hasn't been making many.
Norris, as you can see, far more proficient in the knockout area than is Ralf Ward, but Ward, of course, with only the 3 knockouts in his 12 victories.
I think that's a nice knockout ratio for a fighter in this weight class. 100% indicates too many weak opponents, and 20% indicates not enough power.
Saw a quick left hand a moment ago from Terry Norris, who now seems to be picking the tempo up a little bit here in the second round.
Ralf Ward finding himself having to react to the quickness of Norris. And there you see a lunging counter right hand, but from a distance, and it came up short.
Slapping right hand lead by Ward.
Straight. Turn and loose. Stop punching.
Incidentally, you might notice a lot of this fight thus far being shot from the ringside angle, a low angle, and that is because one of our 2 cameras that give you that high shot that you normally see in boxing is down right at the moment. So we'll bring it to you from this angle and occasionally go to the one camera that we have up top. Kind of an interesting angle, though. You can really see some close-up action here.
You really see the faces, the grimacing, and you hear, almost can feel the impact of the punches. Ward goes southpaw again for about the 3rd time. Always changing right back.
Rudy Battle has had to tell Ward to keep the punches up on 2 occasions now.
And that switching so far by Ward is more a sign of confusion than it has been a strategy so far in the fight. It illustrates he's trying to think of different things to do against Norris, but he can't find the right solution. Norris gives you 2 obstacles which are difficult to face. He's got speed and power.
And everybody talks, and we talked about the fact that Norris can't look by Ralf Ward, and he's just not the type of guy to do that. He's a very dedicated fighter. Matter of fact, he said he put more road work into this fight than he did against the last fight against Buster Drayton. And so far, it is showing for Terry Norris. 2 pretty good rounds for him. We'll be back. Barry Tompkins with Dave Von Tempo back at the Showboat here in Atlantic City. Round 3, Terry Norris in the dark trunks, Ralf Ward, a local product, in the white trunks. First 2 rounds, I think it's fair to say, Dave, belonging to Terry Norris.
His punches have been sharp, they've been accurate, he's been poised, and he picked up the second round from the first. And Ward finally got a right hand punch, and he's got to get a lot more of that. When Norris is just off for 1 second, Ward has to make him feel a right hand.
Punch profile from round 2.
That's pretty awesome for Norris there. If this was something like the NBA, you'd have a 14-point lead at the end of the quarter with 57.
Big right hand by Norris. And another. And Ralf Ward's in a whole bunch of trouble here. Ward scored with a lead a moment ago, and then Norris countered brilliantly, and that started things for him.
Ward in trouble. He should be trying to hold on here. He's showing a little bit of naivety of being in tough situations.
Oh, a big left hand by Norris again.
And what Norris is doing here is bringing out the macho type, I'll slug with you attitude of Ward, which is good for him, but not very healthy for Ward.
Right hand to the top of the head drops Ward. That stunned him more than anything else. I don't think he's any more hurt than he was.
But that's twice he's been in real trouble this round.
Ralf Ward is disgusted. Is probably a real emotion, but that right hand hurt him.
His arms are wide open. He's walking into things, and he's fighting the wrong type of fight. Maybe much too late for him to realize that now. But we mentioned in the beginning he had to counter, and he has not been doing that.
Well, to use a racetrack analogy, and the more I watch this fight, as Rudy Battle again tells Ralf Ward to keep him up, it's the old story of a claiming horse is not going to win the Kentucky Derby. And I really don't mean that as any discredit whatsoever to Ralf Ward, but he's just in there against the thoroughbred tonight.
And in the same analogy from that sport, going to the front with a speed horse, which is not really the way he wanted to fight here. Ward is going to have to think of longevity and holding on and surviving if he wants to be in the fight at all.
Another left hand by Norris staggered Ward once again. And a great jab by Norris. Norris's punches just in the last 3 or 4 times that we've seen him fight just have gotten sharper, and he just seems to be pronating that punch a little bit more, just turning that punch, and just seems to have more power.
Fighting with such confidence.
Into the 3rd round and another big round for Terry Norris.
When you talk about the rhythm that he's got, all coming from the confidence because he's been looking better and better every fight, and you start doing things instinctively that just seem to come to you at the right moments, and he's showing you that so far tonight.
A lot of experience in the corner of Ralf Ward, but all that experience may not help their charge in this case. Carmen Graziano talking.
You can't throw 1 and 2 punches at this guy. You got to put him in bunches and get off and slide, all right? Off your
Bill Johnson doing the talking now. He's
come out.
You just see his glasses in the corner of your screen there. And of course, Eddie Aliano, one of the most experienced cut men in the business.
Jab, lift the elbow up and right hand. Stay. Think, concentrate on the jab.
Ward getting stung on top of the head by Norris.
And actually, I think perhaps the next sequence of punches that didn't necessarily put Ward down, but did wobble him, probably even more effective than that. Now Norris all business here as we start the 4th round.
What's been impressive about him is his punching range. He doesn't waste the shots from outside. Remember that 1st round stat. 26 punches thrown to 50, and he was much more effective with his 26. He won't throw the punch until he's in the right range for it, and then he makes the most of it.
He says himself that he can feel himself improving with each fight. As we look at the jabs through round 3, and Ralf Ward is a guy who really is going to have to make his living by his jab, and he's just not doing that.
He's not finding any type of punching distance off the jab, and nothing to keep Norris away from him.
And meanwhile, Norris with the left hook, which is his big weapon.
So add up 70% thrown versus 70% received. You've got a deficit.
Yeah, it's fair to say that.
Watch your hands in there. No hitting on the break. Just step back.
Ward not used to paying for his mistakes as he has tonight against Norris.
And you can just see Norris sit back and wait to counter right now.
If he's off by a split second, he's paying for it with the left hook. And he's used to doing it the other way, dictating.
The left hook is both quick and strong by Norris.
And the thing that will expand his career more than that left hook is that when he senses he has missed, the right hand comes up and he's there to block anything coming back at him. Thinking 2 ways all the time.
Yeah, the most basic rudiments of this sport, of course, are hit the man and don't get hit yourself, and that's exactly what Terry Norris is doing tonight.
But in most fighters, offense takes over, and the more offensive-minded a fighter is, the more he usually gets hit. That's why the exciting fighters have short-lived careers. for why they needed a year to make every Rocky movie.
That's right.
They had to repair those cuts.
Ward is trying to flick that jab off.
Yeah, he's going southpaw without a purpose, and he's wide open as he walks into his shot. And the problem, and one reason to explain his lack of jabbing effectiveness, is that when he steps forward, he's getting hit, so it's making him more tentative. He's throwing it before he needs to.
So it's more of same, really, for terrible Terry Norris, and I assure you the word terrible is merely a nickname.
And of these have been landing throughout the fight. That one from a wide angle, and the more damaging ones have been from in close.
So Ralf Ward continues to try to figure out the mystery that is Terry Norris. The other side of that coin is that Ward has been no mystery at all for Norris. And as you can see on the card of Dave Bontempo, what you call your no contest.
Well, a rout so far.
Big right hand again.
And Norris establishing that really here for the first time. The left hook has been the weapon throughout most of the fight.
That's how Norris got that left hand up after throwing his own right.
Big problem for Ward is he's got to be a stylist to win the fight. He's only got 2 knockouts in 14 fights. And now he's trying to do it with some power, and he's over the top, and that's not his personality in there. The way to defeat the left hook of Norris is to left hook himself, but it's not a good punch for him. You may see Norris trying to go to the body a little bit more if he wants to get Ward out of there. It's probably the only thing that's kept Ward standing so far with everything he's taken. But Norris won't get close to the body if Ward decides to circle around and survive like he is here.
Norris in one of those situations where a fighter kind of takes a blow. I've seen many fighters do that for a round. And whether or not Terry Norris is doing that now, I don't know, but he has slowed the pace for the moment.
Especially when the results have been consistent throughout the opening rounds.
Yeah, it's almost as though he's just sitting back waiting for Ward to make a mistake.
Figuring he doesn't need this round necessarily. If it was 2-2 or something, he might be thinking differently. But also with Ward trying to survive, he's not going to enable Ward to get lucky.
Norris found a home for that left hook a moment ago.
There may be no more lonely feeling in athletics than a non-power puncher whose jab isn't working and all of his skills are not working, and he's up against a power puncher like Norris.
That makes it pretty easy pickings for Norris. That's been the story of the fight. It was a right-hand lead that got home by Ward, but again with little impact. And here's a look at Terry Norris now.
All right, good job, good job. See him with his mouth open, sucking for air? All right. That's all you want to work on. Take deep breath, huh?
And you're listening to Joe Sayadovich.
Nice and relaxed. Good round. Good round.
And the rest of the corner. Marlon Norris Sr., his dad, Abel Sanchez.
Yeah, he's not going to get a chalkboard talk so far. He's doing everything right. They're telling him to remain poised, not to open up. The opportunity will come. And from the standpoint of conditioning, all the strength should be with Norris on top of everything else he's doing well. Norris effective throughout the entire round. The big right hand finally scoring behind the left hook, which has been his big weapon so far.
Round number 6. Ralf Ward in the white trunks, Terry Norris in the black trunks.
Now, fighting in close, if he can get some punches off, probably would not be a bad idea for Ralf Ward. It's not usually what the taller fighter wants, but it's something he hasn't tried yet tonight.
And the punch profile through the first 5 rounds tells you just about all you need to know about this fight.
A gigantic edge for Norris's accuracy.
Left hand inside by Norris that time as Ward tried to do exactly what you said a moment ago, Dave, and that is get inside, and he paid the price. Ward pushing his punches now.
And for Ward to be in this fight and be thinking about having the shot to win it, he would have had to establish the pace and be ahead here in trying to fight off the rally of Norris. He can't do anything to discourage Norris from coming right at him.
Norris shook his hand a moment ago, so he might have hurt his hand. But that's a little consequence at this point. And again, Terry Norris just waiting to counter.
And he did it that time as he was backing up against the ropes. Ward has taken some pretty good shots to remain standing so far. With what was happening to him, he could have been out of there a couple rounds ago.
It's got to be a very frustrating feeling for Ralf Ward, knowing it's not as though he isn't in there giving it his best shot. It seems as though everything he's tried, he's paid the price. Paid the price with the left hand there. And another.
And the quickness of Norris you're seeing is a major factor here. Whenever Ward does want to try something, it's out of desperation. It can't really be done with any type of planning because he's reacting to everything Norris does.
Norris is just very sharp offensively and covers up very nicely defensively.
Look at the hands on both fighters. Watch how Wards are spread apart. He's not taking the disciplinary step when he gets done punching of bringing his gloves back. Norris does that. That accounts for a major difference in our wide percentage difference in the punching.
Holding it here.
Another thing about Terry Norris that strikes me, Dave, is he always seems to be on balance with his punches. Sets down on his punches very well. So we come to the end of the 6th round, and at the risk of being repetitive, it was another big round for Terry Norris.
Of the Terry Norris show. As he's backing up, he lands a stinging left and then tries to get the right behind it. That one hurt Ward even though it didn't land flush. It was kind of an arcing angular blow.
And again, to go back to what we started to talk about right at the end of that round, it does seem that Norris is always on balance with his punches.
It's part of the patience and confidence that he's gotten. Here's a stat for Brick City. Ward was 0 for 19 in jabs in round 6.
First time I've ever seen a boxer bageled.
A shutout. You have to give Norris a lot of the credit for that because he subtle body movements, he'll see the punch, he'll get out of the way, and he's in position to throw a counter shot back. Part of the balance you were describing. One mistake he doesn't make that a lot of fighters do, he does not lean too far forward, and that's why he keeps his balance.
Yeah, you rarely see him lunge with a punch.
If the punch is too far away, he just won't take it. And he's also in no hurry to try to get Ward out of there.
Joe Sayadovich a couple of rounds ago, and you might have even heard this, say that you look at him breathing through his mouth as you take a look once more at Ward's jabs in this fight.
That's the give part of it. That's what Ward's giving, that's what he's taking. 64% back.
And a low blow, so we have a momentary timeout. Ralf Ward says, I'm okay, and we continue.
Despite that, he stands up and he wants to fight, and you have to give him some credit for that.
He took a big right hand, and Ward is in trouble again.
Regardless of anything else that's happened, Ward's heart is in this fight.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He hasn't given this fight to Terry Norris. Norris has just gone out and taken it.
When you look at the posture of Ward, it starts with the jab. His jab is a pouring type of a punch, and he's not really moving Norris back with it. Sets him up for all types of counters, which Norris is only too happy to wait for.
Ralf Ward will have another day. He's a very likable young man. In fact, he said this morning when we talked to him, he said, a lot of people say, why do you fight? You could be going to school. You're a smart guy.
Well, sometimes a manager's eyes can be bigger than his stomach, and they saw opportunity here. They went after it, and they're realizing that this is a tough task. It's so hard to make that shortcut to get to the top, but it's so appealing to a fighter and his management.
Yeah, everybody feels this is my chance. I can do it.
I can make up for 3 years of bad fortune with one good win. Some can reverse it, but on a percentage basis, most won't.
And he's in there tonight, not only with a proficient fighter, but with a hungry fighter. And that combination is tough.
You know, they were kind of hoping that they would catch Norris not hungry. Catch him a little bit off tonight. That's always the hope.
Yeah, but when we talked to him this morning, did you have any doubt but that he was hungry? So we come to the end of the 7th round, and the story is as the story was. Terry Norris
Can telegraph this punch from long distance, and it still lands effectively. Notice he did not follow up and gamble because the opportunity wasn't there.
That punch, incidentally, came right after the momentary timeout for the low blow. So it's the 8th round, and Ralf Ward can take some solace in the fact that he's still there, although he needs a miracle.
Well, the problem is you can't get a whole lot of three-pointers in this.
That's right.
It's hard to come back, and that's one story of the fighting. Ward has hung in there pretty well, but Norris has turned out to be superior.
Thank you, wrestling.
You know, when you have a slugging reputation, there's always that chance for that thunder in a bottle you might get with one shot. But for a finesse type of a fighter, and Ward only has the 2 knockouts, everything has to be perfect if you're going to win.
Yeah, and as you said, if he's going to win, he would have had to take control of the fight early in the fight. Of course, that hasn't happened. And again, it isn't for want of trying. It's just that he's in there tonight against a guy who's determined to be a champion and looks every bit the part of it. And a big shot there, and Ward's in trouble again.
Norris caught him off balance. Actually, if Norris would gamble a little bit, he might put Ward out. There's another opportunity. He did let Ward off the hook there. A lot of fighters will tell you that they've thrown a lot of good offense for 4 or 5 rounds. As the mouthpiece goes out, and we'll have the mandatory timeout by New Jersey rules as it gets washed and put back.
And that, of course, greatly to the advantage of Ralf Ward, although he wasn't really in any serious trouble at that point.
A lot of fighters will tell you that if a fight goes 4 or 5 rounds and the best knockout chances have been there, they may psychologically get ready for a decision.
Body shot by Norris.
If Norris really opened up to the body and then went upstairs, he probably could end this fight. On the other hand, he's so far ahead, he's not taking the shot.
Big right hand as Ward bounced off the ropes and right into the right hand of Norris.
Again, Ward caught off balance more than hurt.
Ward again to a southpaw for the moment, takes a right hand.
At this point for Ward, getting through the final bell would be a victory in itself.
Well, as you said, he hadn't gone past 8 rounds, so with the next round, he'll be in some new territory.
What's one more gigantic headache?
That's right. So the end of the 9th round, and we'll walk you back into the corner of Ralf Ward. The end of the 8th round, I beg your pardon, coming to the 9th. Remember the keys to victory we spoke of? Well, so far, Terry Norris does have, while Ralf Ward hasn't, but may be.
And the conditioning for Ward may end up being just that he gets through the fight instead of being knocked out. The hand speed has been there for Norris, and he certainly has avoided the letdown. It's always a big point. We see it so often. Fighters on their way to something, negotiations underway, they get beat. The right hand from Norris coming in, and Ward was leaning in. He got hurt there. Off balance, the left hook comes in also. Norris did not follow up, but there were several opportunities there. He could have.
Yeah, it was a strange shot, actually. It looked like it bounced off Ward's shoulder and in to the head, but it still staggered.
Ward was doing a dance just to stay up.
9th round. And in Ralf Ward's corner, they were realistic.
Let him go, let him go, let him go.
Heard one of his people say to him, who knows, you might get lucky and knock him out. And the numbers do tell the story in this case. Norris just getting off quicker and harder. The crowd here at the Showboat sort of watching this one like a jury.
That was the outcome from a decision standpoint, so no doubt at all. And they got their big excitement in the first 5, especially the 3rd round. Norris.
Oh, bounced off the ropes, hit him with the right hand, hurt him again.
But Norris could be doing more here.
Yeah, now here's a case where you'd think he'd go after him and try to get him out of there.
Break the time. Let him go. Stop breaking.
That was almost a jab that knocked Ward back, and he's in trouble again.
Another off-balance shot that caught him the wrong way.
There was a right hand, and that staggers Ward.
Ward is gangly. Now Norris seems to be going for it a little bit more.
Ward's got a long way to go in this 9th round. Left hand drives him into the ropes.
It's simply a matter of how much more Ralf Ward can take. He might be able to will himself through.
His legs are still none too steady right now.
Ralf Ward has survival on his mind. Try to stay away, out of trouble.
Norris may be willing to let him do that, at least for the moment. That was a push.
There have been several opportunities in this fight where he could have put Ward away, but he's been willing to accept this big lead.
That might have made Norris just angry enough.
Well, it looks like Ralf Ward is going to make it through round 9, which he looked in bad shape just a minute ago.
So Ralf Ward somehow has gotten through this 9th round after being staggered on a number of occasions in that round. He's got 3 minutes to get through the
Fighters are tangled in the ropes, and Norris has a surprise waiting. One of many he's had so far.
Been a night of surprises for him.
You gotta let your hands go.
Throw punches for 3 minutes, Ralph.
So 10th and final round now, and I'm sure it feels like about a month for Ralf Ward.
This is the 10th and final round. Let's have a round of applause.
This is when you see a lot of fighters take one more stab at that knockout when they've been content to be maybe a little complacent during the middle rounds. But for Terry Norris, I'm sure there may be some questions here about why he didn't get Ralf Ward out of here sooner.
Yeah, very good performance for Norris, but there is that but.
In a championship match, he would have to take a chance at some point if the situation determined it. If the scoring was closer.
Ralf Ward works a full-time job on a construction crew. I guess you could say tonight he got hammered. I don't know.
It was a tough night's worth to pay for him, that's for sure. And his conditioning has brought him this far. He fought in April. He was in the gym. He didn't miss any workouts. But tonight, as it turned out, he got thrown in over his head.
Norris, of course, the NABF champion, although this fight is not for that NABF championship.
And the more dangerous thing he had at risk was the ranking by the IBF of #3. His manager, Joe Stoyanovich, will be trying to negotiate a title fight.
Ward just got in what might have been his best punch of the fight. It was a long looping right hand, had no effect whatsoever on Norris, but it did get there.
That was the thing. He had to try so many more times during the fight, but it just didn't have any impact for him. And really, the last 3 rounds have turned into a glorified gym session.
Norris said that he had run about 120 miles coming into this fight, and I guess he probably ran another 10 or so in this fight, just chasing Ward.
And when Terry Norris looks back, it will probably be the absence of body shots that was responsible for him not putting Ralf Ward away. Some of that due to the fact that Ward was running from the 5th round up.
We talked to Terry Norris this morning about what or whom he would like to take on in his challenge for the championship. He mentioned Julian Jackson and Rene Jacquel. As this one comes to an end.
And will go down as a landslide on the cards.
Well, Ralf Ward did accomplish going the 10 rounds for the first time. I'm sure we'll see him again. Just simply a case of being overmatched, I think it's fair to say.
He earned his purse tonight very much, even doubly so, because it was just too much Terry Norris for him. No chance to think, no chance to show any instincts, and very few chances to capitalize on a mistake.
Terry Norris does take, apparently at least, that next step toward a title shot, which he hopes is not too far down the road. And the numbers, as we said earlier, just tell the story of the fight.
Well, Ward could say, I outpunched him. He threw more punches, but he landed far less, and a good accuracy for Norris, maintaining the approximate percentage he's been doing throughout the year.
#2 on our ESPN list, as we mentioned. We should have a little quiz of who's #1, shouldn't we?
We should list the standings in the Agate in the newspapers.
That's right.
Percentage leaders.
Well, I'll tell you, it's Karama Lyoto. What did I win?
Wait, cut him off there now. Let me check.
Terry Norris, on the meantime, awaiting the decision, and we'll get that decision from Michael Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's the official scoring. Frank J. Cairo scores the bout 100-88. Eugene Grant has the same, and Phil Newman scores it 99-89 for the winner by unanimous decision, Terrible Terry Norris.
Well, little doubt about that outcome, as Terry Norris is the winner by a unanimous decision.